This is a PNAS paper, 2007. So this is a really different kind of direction. It's going to have partitioning again. So we had this stuff before. We're going to maximize modularity, right? So we're trying to do that. So now we're going to go to our network and just partition it and then measure the modularity of that and then figure out how to move to an adjacent partition that has a lower modularity. So this is going to be like actually moving around in partition space, which is kind of bonkers. So partition network. So now we've got a network, then we have a partition of the network, right? We're broken into whatever you want, 3 groups, 4 groups, something like you just say. So now we have, and then we can think about this partition is really close to this partition because maybe you just swap, like there's a group here and a group here and you just take this friend and this character and put them in another group, right? So they're adjacent to each other. So now you have a network of partitions about one network. So then you randomly walk around on the network of partitions. This is really pretty, this is an inception kind of calculation. Because you could just keep doing it, yeah. So 2 partitions are connected, they differ only by a reassignment of a single node, right? So if we went back here to this one, you could just say, flip the color of this one to white, and that would be 2 partitions that are right next to each other. And sensibly so, right? Because this is you wouldn't be able to, just swap this one because it's clearly connected to this one group. All right. Okay, so that's a little bonkers. So they do that. And now I'm just going to try to, we won't compute all these things. I'll just try to sort of go through a number of examples. So, okay, yep. So now we have this affinity matrix. And the idea will be, it's I and J, so they're over the number of nodes that we have, right? So you have the adjacency matrix, which is your original one, who's connected to whom, and now you have an affinity matrix, and that's all the numbers in this matrix will be 0 to 1. So again, an n by n, and they're probabilities, right? So they're probably that if you make this network of partitions and you randomly wander around on that network, that you are at a partition where I and J are in the same group. It's pretty nuts. Yeah. Maybe this is confusing. Topological overlap, that's the idea that, how many of your friends, you've got a friend, how many of your what fraction of your neighborhoods match up? How closed is it? It's a bit like clustering, but different. Okay. So here's their effort to explain it. And I know in the original version of this, I think all of the little tiny pictures didn't appear, so it made no sense whatsoever. So this is you have to get this from the corrected version. So this is the network. This is the original network. So you got to wonder how this is going to work for 10 million things. But here's the original network. So you might think, fair enough, that's kind of a group, and then D is off here, or maybe these are 2 groups, right? AC is a group, and maybe. But this is a network of 4, and then this is the complete partition network. So this explodes horribly, right? And you're going to do it, in statistical crazy ways. But here's a group where everyone's on the same team. There's one module. Here's one where they're all in different groups, like colors. Here's one where there are 3 of those are in one group, and then there's one off by themselves. These are sort of weird ones, right, where that's a group and that one's off by themselves. And then there's this one here where you've got the groups, there are 2 groups like that. So they sort of make sense. And then, oh my gosh. So this is this random walk thing, right? So these 2 are adjacent to each other. If this one switches teams to this team, then it can go there. I'm not sure why the arrow doesn't come back. This is an amazing thing. I'm doing my best to explain this crazy thing. Right, so as you wander around, you start to find, which one's the best kind of partitioning, and Yeah, comparison of random networks is bad. They're all the same. Right. Yeah. Modularity increases as well. Seems to, doesn't it? Because this one's high. But I think it's really that you end up here, right? This doesn't mean this is a sound thing. You end up here a lot, you end up here a lot. You tend to leave these ones, right? So you can see they have lots of outgoing things. So your random walker doesn't end up here as much. Oh boy. That's such a strange thing. Anyway, it's sort of plausible. It just seems very cumbersome. I mean, this is a good idea, but this is 2007. There's no structure for this one. So this funny example they give actually is like doesn't have a reasonable way of being modularized. I know. Yeah, I think someone really suffered. That's true. So the hierarchy with the highest modularity score isn't always chosen. Oh, dear. I don't know. This is fine. It's a simulated annealing thing. It's going to be slow. I'll show you some of the, I think that's kind of the idea. So here's the, wow. This is something we'll come back to, but the idea is you want to sort the nodes to maximize this score, right? Or minimize this cost, I should say. So if nodes are, because now you have an affinity score, right? This is how often they appear in the same group together, which is weird. It's not the adjacency matrix, right? This is some number between 0 and 1. So if I and j are always in the same group, this is going to be a 1. If they're never in the same group, this is going to be a 0. So now you want to shuffle the nodes so that nodes that have a high affinity are next to each other in your list of nodes. So this is really weird. So here's the idea. This is something that has group structure in it. It's a completely made up one. And this is their method essentially. Does pretty well, right? So it's shuffling things, and you can see there are these 4 main groups. They also have 4 groups within them. It's finding them out. There are some connections across, so that's why, right? But they're really strongly connected submodules. There are 16 of them. So it's not bad. And of course, this is a completely made up. I mean, it's a funny thing because they go to all this effort to make this affinity matrix and then shuffle that thing. You could also just shuffle the original adjacency matrix, the original set of nodes, to make the adjacency matrix as block structure as possible. So we'll come back to that.